Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. This week I've got as my guest Justin Phillip, who's an actor, producer, director, cinematographer. Have I got all of those, Justin? Would that sum you up?
Yeah. Master of none.
Master of none. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. The reason I found you is you've got a really good YouTube channel, Justin Film, which has got loads of tips on kind of low budget, micro budget, DIY filmmaking, that kind of stuff. If you were going to advise someone, say they're going to make a micro budget feature film, what are your kind of like money saving tips or your kind of DIY filmmaking tips for them?
I mean, this is a loaded question here. There's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. But the biggest benefit of that I have noticed is like having the connections, like having the network, so to speak. And the funny thing is, I'm not a good networker, but what I am good at is remembering the people that stick out to me and then holding them close. Does that make sense? So like I said, the first DP I worked with when I first started directing was someone that I knew from my acting days. You know, I'd always kept that person in my brain because something that they did on set was memorable to me, you know, always, you know, because the funny thing is that I've always had an interest in camera. So as an actor, I would always go up and chat up the DP, would check out the camera. You know, I was that nosy actor guy on set. But a lot of DPs, they seem to enjoy that. They were like, oh, cool, the actor's talking to us about the camera, you know, because I showed true interest in it. And John was so cool, and he had this weird, it was a black magic camera. At the time, I'd never seen a camera like that because honestly, most of the cameras that I was used to being in front of were red or airy. You know, I'd never seen this weird black magic camera before, right? And so that was the first my interest. And then him coming in to talk about it. And then, you know, all those little nuggets. And I only share this because, you know, you should always be aware of that when you're on set, you know, like even if you start out as a PA or something, no matter like how small the role may seem to you at the time, you never know like who you're going to stick out to. And look, I'm a nobody, right? I acknowledge that, but the things that I go on to do, I feel like people are excited to come do them because they're with me and I'm with them, if that makes any sense, right? So it is really about, with filmmaking in particular, it is, people call it a family a lot. It sounds cliche, but it really kind of is. You know, it's like this is a group of people that you want to be with. And then when that happens, people tend to want to donate more time to you, but also like they know that I'm going to do my best to take care of them at the same time, you know, and my people know that, like they know, like, look, Justin ain't got a lot of money, bro, you know, but I'm going to do my best to take care of them any way I can in any form. And even when my project is done, I'm going to return those favors to them. And they know that. They know my door is always open to them. So it's just, I think that is the most crucial thing about it. And the question I get all the time is where people are like, yeah, but what if I'm new to this town or I'm just out of film school? Well, here's the thing. If you're just out of film school, you got your network already. You know, the people you were in school with, though, that is that's why so many people, you know, from AFI, they always still work together years later. You know, they come from that little clique. But if it's like a situation where you're brand new to LA or something like that, that is a bummer, because then you do got to kind of just start putting yourself out there. You know, you really got to, you have to, because no one's going to come to you. No one's going to knock on your door. It just doesn't work like that. So you just got to hit the streets, man. You got to hoof it and you got to get out there. And that's really the beginning, right? Because you got to do all that to have the network. You can't do anything by yourself, as much as I would love to. You know, it's like you can't. You need the people. And that's the first tip I would give. I wouldn't worry about the money or any of that. I would just worry about like assembling the team. And once you have the team on both sides, actors and crew, you want to have the right team in mind. You don't have to be like, hey, we're going to do this thing. When? I don't know, but we're going to do it. You don't need to tell anybody. You just get those ideas, get the lineup in your mind, or even get it on paper if you have to. Just see the lineup and know like this is going to be my crew. That's before any money talk. That's how I operate anyways.
Yeah. No, getting the right people is important. And because obviously sometimes it's easy to forget that you actually want to enjoy making the thing, and the thing isn't a slog, and that you're turning up every day just trying to record it. You actually want to enjoy it and enjoy the time you spend with the people on set. And the other thing I was going to pick up on, which you said about asking these DOPs questions, asking different departments questions, is really useful, because I find anyway, I much prefer being a director than doing all the other roles. I can pick up a camera, but having a little bit of knowledge of each department really serves you in having a conversation with someone and trying to work out solutions for stuff. So it's definitely worth being curious about everything. What about, because the other thing is I watch a lot of micro budget, low budget movies, and you can tell when production value is high. You can tell when someone's put all the money on screen, or you can tell when someone's used either equipment, lighting, whatever, to get that kind of higher budget look. How are there any tips and tricks you use to make stuff look like it costs more money?
Well, I hire the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, it does kind of come to that. Because here's the thing too. Like they always say, like you will attract the people that are into this kind of the same things that you are. Like, I think that's what I'm trying to say. So like, in other words, like the people, I should add, the people that do work with me or want to work with me, they know that like I'm kind of into what they're into. And so if you're already working on the same page, because here's the thing you learn early on, it's not really about the gear. You know what I mean? Because in the beginning, it seems like it is. You're like, oh yeah, it's this camera, it's this light, it's this amount of stuff. But then you realize over time, you're like, I don't think any of that does matter. It's like, and then you have to open up this new door where you're like, you go, what if you only had one light, only had this specific camera? You could still get those high-end results. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that you realize, it just takes the wherewithal to know what to do with the tools that you have at your disposal. And I think that only comes with time and doing it over and over consistently, but also surrounding yourself by people that do already know and they have it figured out because they've been doing it longer than you. I've always kept people in my pack that are way more experienced than me, always. I don't let that bother me one bit. Like, they know I don't know what the hell's going on. I'll admit it. I don't care. But I know how to talk to people. You know what I mean? And I can convey to them. Sometimes I can, I'm not always perfectly articulate, but I can try. And I don't know, that's what I would say. I wouldn't get caught up in the gear of it all. And also, honestly, I wouldn't even, nowadays I'm getting more into the idea of, I wouldn't get caught up in like, oh, this doesn't look like Deacons would do it.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't get caught up in that anymore. I think what to hone in on is the story. And then if you're really chasing the story and you're being true to the story, I think it'll all work out splendidly for you,
Yeah. I think the only thing I would prioritize over and above all of that is probably the sound. just because if you get that story right and it's all then you're in trouble. But yeah, I get you totally.
Right.
And I speak to a lot of film students, and people can get obsessed with gear. They get obsessed with the latest camera. Got to have these lenses, got to have this, got to have that, and they kind of lose sight of you're actually trying to tell a story and keep an audience engaged. I also noticed on your bio that you've done some training in color grading. And this is another thing. And the reason I'm focusing in, I think, on quality, why something looks quality, is because there is so much stuff out there at the moment. There's loads of short films. There's YouTube channels everywhere. There's tons of content on streaming platforms, all of these different things to get your attention. And I do think, unfortunately, when you select one of those things and click on it, if it doesn't first and foremost have that kind of quality feeling to it, it's very easy to skip. No, I'm not interested in that, even if the story is super duper. So I was interested, as someone who's got experience color grading, are there any things you see in other projects that people do that you think, oh, if they'd only just done this, maybe that would have had a much better effect on their project?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, I don't click off. Like if the image or whatever is bad, it's like you say, if the audio is bad, then I'll click off.
Yeah.
But if the audio is good and I'm interested in whatever, for whatever reason, if it doesn't look the way that I think it should look, I'll still watch it. Like, because I'm also kind of a fan of the grungy. Like, I kind of do like weird stuff, but at the same time, I know what you're saying, and 100%. Like most of the videos that I give critique to, funny enough, are videos that are YouTubers that have nothing to do with the filmmaking community, right? Yep. And it's just because I watch those videos and I go, oh yeah, I mean, like, this would look a little better if they did X, Y, Z or whatever, because I'm just giving them notes in my brain about how they can make their, then you look at their subscriber count and you're like, oh, it doesn't matter to them, right? Like,
what do I know? Yeah.
yeah. Because the reality is, I think that speaks to a lot of like general audience though. I think us as filmmakers, we get caught up in that. But when you see what normal YouTubers videos look like, no shade, right? But I think we know what we're all saying here. You see what those look like and you go, but look, it doesn't matter. Like, these guys are getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
So I think as filmmakers, we don't need to get caught up in that so much anymore. Like, because I think it speaks a lot to, if you, again, back to the core of whatever it is about, that's what the audience will be attracted to. I think us as image makers, we get caught up in our heads of like, it needs to look beautiful, it needs to look cinematic or whatever. And it's like, maybe not always. You don't have to harp on that too hard,
Yeah, definitely. And talking of the people that you've worked with, so obviously you do a lot of cinematography yourself, work with a lot of DOPs. What kind of personal quality do you see in those people and hope to have in yourself to do that role effectively?
I think the number one thing in my experience of gaffing, when I go and gaff, because I've worked with all kinds of different DPs as a gaffer, and the thing I envy the most is the ones that are super chill. They are just so relaxed and chill, no matter what happens. And I'm like, I just don't have that in me. I don't have the chill bone. And what's funny enough, a lot of DPs that I've worked with, both in my acting days, John Schweigart is one of them, both in my acting days and my gaffing days, the thing I've noticed the most out of DPs is when they're chill. I admire that so much. I don't have that. I'm very like, I narrate what I'm doing a lot of times, and I hate that I do that. What I mean is I talk out loud or I think out loud. I hate that I do that. And there's just so many things that I do that I'm like, man, if I was just a little bit more chill, but it's just the type of personality. I'm just not that type of personality, I guess. And I remember I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. He's usually my key grip. And we were driving home one time. And I said, man, so-and-so is so cool, man. They're so chill. I'm like that guy, And then I'm driving and I look at my buddy Tristan, shout out to Tristan. And I go, you know what? I go, I think I can be like that. And he does long pause. And then he looks at me and goes, I think you'd have to change your everything.
Nice.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just, everyone is our own personality, I guess, but that is something that I think it just speaks volumes, because it's like sets are so chaotic and like just can be sometimes really toxic, honestly. Like you just like sets are just crazy. They're just, especially in the low budget world, they're very chaotic. And that's something that's always like stuck with me. The ones that are just like, yeah, it is what it is. They're not bummed out if something doesn't work out. They're not going to sit there and kill a lot of time trying to get something that they know they can't. They're just like, they just surrender and they're okay with it and they move on. They're like, yeah, man, acceptance, they're just doing their thing. And that's something that I admire a lot.
Yeah, that is a good personality trait to have. I guess I'm a little bit, maybe people disagree. I think I'm a little bit like that. I think I've got that kind of Buddhist style. Oh, well, I mean, my wife is my producer, and she hates it when I say, "Oh well." She goes, "Oh well," you know, that's just the way it is, and because you can't do anything about it, and sometimes it's super stressful, but then sometimes it does. There are times when she steps in when I can't. I'm just like, I can't process this. I don't know how to get myself out of this hole. What do you do in those instances? Have you got like a producer you always work with, or someone you lean on?
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. My wife, for sure. Some of our smaller projects in the beginning, for sure, she was either the writer on it or helping me co-direct or always co-producing with me. And she is like the best editor. She still edits a lot of my stuff because she's just has it. She can hone in on it and just, yeah, it's just really good at that. She has a really good poker face too, you know, like you never really know. And that's like the best thing to have on set, especially if you're like in a producer role, is like that poker face, you know, like don't let them know what you're thinking. And I'm horrible at that. Like she says that all the time too. You know, I just wear everything on my sleeve. You know, everyone knows exactly how I'm feeling and thinking. And maybe that's just from my acting background, you know, being a performer for my whole life, basically. And I just can't help it. You know, I maybe I'm just have a certain mentality where I feel like I'm always being viewed or watched. So maybe there's a part of me that just has to emote. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm just super passionate too. I'm just a passionate guy. You know, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yes, I can tell that. So have you, forgive me for not figuring this out from IMDb, because it is colossal, your page. So have you made a feature, or have you got plans to make a feature? Where are you in that road, or is that not on your radar?
Me personally have not done a feature as a writer or director. What I have done, well, I shouldn't say writer. I have written a feature film actually.
Yeah.
And my wife has written many feature films. She actually has her MFA in writing, a screenplay writing actually. But I have not directed a feature, but I have shot. I've been the DP on 3 feature films.
Yeah.
And I've been the gaffer on a couple feature films as well.
Right.
But me as the director have not ventured into the feature film.
Why not? Why isn't that? Surely that's the next thing, isn't it?
It is and it isn't. I'm still scared of that because the feature films that I've worked on scare me a little bit, you know, because it's like, A is the money. That's a lot of money. To produce a feature film, I think is scary. Like I would definitely have to reach out to some of my more higher end experienced producer friends here in LA, and I'd have to bring them on, you know, because I don't. Here's the thing with me, like I am so low budget. I'm super ultra low budget, but also like I still operate as if I'm not, if that makes sense, you know? So like I'm a huge fan of, you know, Robert Rodriguez, you know, make a $7,000 mariachi, but I can't go do that because I'm like, nah, I need the right people around me. You know, I'm still that way. And so for me, a lot of it is the money. And then I don't know, I don't feel up to that yet. I feel like I still have more shorts to put. And I know that sounds weird, but with the YouTube, I think I have that advantage of like, nah, shorts will get seen on the, you know, just because of the YouTube alone, you know. I wouldn't normally recommend that though, because short films kind of can be a waste of time, honestly, depending on what you're trying to do, right? Depending on what you're trying to do, they can be a complete waste of time. It just depends what you want to do, you know. But if you already have a platform, I think short films could be a cool thing. I don't know. And a web series, I do have a web series in the making that I'm writing right now. And yeah, I don't know if it's just not on the radar right now. It's just
not on the radar right now. So it's money, and it's maybe not, you don't feel like you're ready for that step into feature film. Well, the money I can't help you with. But the other side, I would say, because I do see a lot of filmmakers, and like you say, you've got somewhere to put your short films, which is great. You've got an audience who actually, you know, wants to watch them. But making a lot of short films, putting them out into festivals, yeah, they've got a short shelf life. There's not a lot you can do with them. So I would say you're never going to be ready to make a feature film, but you should do one. But let's concentrate on the stuff that you're working on at the moment. So talk to me about creative problem solving. So which is something that happens on set all the time. So can you think of an instance where you've creatively problem solved something?
I think, you know, I mean, just on the recent things I've done are really just the DP stuff. I mean, we just did this little short film that I acted and directed in, but it was very tiny. It was literally me and my camera guy. Like that was it. So shout out to Miguel or Des. He was my cinematographer on that. So I don't know if I even want to talk about that because it was just like so last minute and we're just going to go do this short film. It's a one-man show. It's literally just a one-man show. I'm in the car the whole time. It's just this crazy idea I came up with. It's on the YouTube. You can watch it. But on that one, I can't even think of anything where it would apply to that. But in the DP realm, I feel like it's my job to always have to solve these problems, especially in the low budget world. I feel like I'm solving problems for departments that I shouldn't even be solving problems for. You know what I mean? But it, I will say this, I will admit this, I'm not great at it. You know, I feel that I just, and why I'm not good at it is because the number one strength to me on set is speed with efficiency, if that is such a thing, whatever those two things combined are. Because it's like, yeah, you need to go fast, but it needs to make sense and it needs to work the first time, you know? I'm not so good at that. And funny, I've been doing this a long time now and I'm still not like amazing at going, this is the thing we need to do. This will do it. What ends up happening is I go, this will do it. And a lot of this is on me, the type of human being I am. I'll go, this will do it, right? And I come up with a great idea. But in the process of doing that idea, my brain is like, meow, and it's thinking, well, you could have done it like this, though. And then it's like, well, no, we're already doing it like this, you know? And then when we get, but I won't let that bother me. We'll get it done. And then there's a part of me, there's that itching little part of me that goes, yeah, do we have time to try it the other way though? And that will kill you every time, you know, that will kill you every time. So I think if I was to answer that for you correctly, I think it would be those moments when I didn't go for option B, right? It's like the best time is when you go with option A and you just stick to it, and whatever you get, that's what you're going with. And it is what it is, man. It is what it is, you know? And that's where it comes back to those Buddhist DPs, right? Where they're like, yeah, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, you know, because they're fine with not hitting the rewind button, you know? Where that I suffer from that a little bit, where I go, are the actors still getting ready? Okay, yeah, let's do this other thing, you know? That is not a good idea, you know, don't ever do that, you know?
Yeah. The tough thing with that is, see, in my brain, there's two ways to think about this. Is obviously no money, no time, you know, maybe you haven't got a lot of time in a location, you haven't got a lot of cash, you're not able to get exactly what you want. So there's one part of me that's like, well, if I storyboard the hell out of this, I go in, I make sure I get my scenes, I've got them in the bank, and then I'm done. And then after that, if there's any time left, I'll do the fun stuff. You know, I'll go, let's try this over there. Let's try it from over here. But then there's part of me I'm trying to move to, and it's difficult because you don't want to leave the set without shooting anything usable. And I edit my own stuff. So again, if I get in the edit suite, I'm like, oh my God, I've not got a shot of this. I've not got that. So, but there's another part of me that's like, the stuff that I shoot at the end of the day, when I've shot all that other stuff, is usually the best stuff, is the creative stuff, is the wacky stuff, is the stuff that does look really cool when you chuck it into the scene. So I would love to be the sort of filmmaker that can just go in, still have a plan, but all of it be really good creative stuff, not safety Jimmy who has to get, you know, let's get the wide, the medium, and the close and make sure we got the scene first. I want it to be this other guy who just gets all the cool stuff. How do I do that?
100%. No, I hear what you're saying, and I've experienced that as well. And it is true. It is true. It's tricky like that because here's the thing. If you're doing your own thing, like if you're the producer, you're the doctor behind it, you know, you call the shots. So it's going to have to be that way. Like if you want to experiment, you have the freedom to do that, is what I'm trying to say. Right. But, you know, you could be worried about, like, you know, there was a director that I shot for one time, and he was like very by the book, man, like really hardcore. And he had his storyboards and he had everything perfect, you know, and I shot multiple things for him, by the way. But there was one project we were working on, and he got a little loose. Right. And his reaction was so almost childish, like, because he was that excited that he had deviated from the storyboards. And I was like, because he was like, "Ooh, this is like," he was being 100% genuine too. He was like so excited about it, and I looked at my people and I'm like, to me it was just bizarre because I'm like, I couldn't imagine being that locked into something where you just felt so giddy to do something that you didn't storyboard. Like that was crazy to me. But 100% I am the type, and that is why I'm like, no, we got to do it this other way, because that is exactly me, because I'm so like, nah, 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 like it has to be just perfect and just right. And I have this other, this will work. I'm telling you, this will work, you know? But when I'm not the director, it always tends to bite me in the ass when I want to get a little loose. The only time you get away with it is when you get loose in the pre-production process, right? So that's something that I've gotten better at as a DP. Like I've gotten better at just knowing the script so good, like demanding I get that script, not demanding, but requesting I get that script as soon as possible, because I want to try to get in that director's head as immediate as soon as I can. Because the sooner I can understand what they're trying to do with their script, the sooner I can come up with these ideas that I can experiment with before I get there. You know what I'm saying? I think that is the most important thing that I guess took us this long talking to realize, is like, because I'm thinking about our most recent project. I can't really talk about it. It's NDA, but I was the DP on it. Kind of a cool thing. But it was one of these things where there's these little vignettes and really open to creativity and things. And and they just, you know, they were giving out, they knew the tone of what they wanted it to be. And I just took that and ran with it. And I came up with the whole concept before we even got there on the day. And there's programs you can do that. I have it's called Satellite 3D. And I love that because I can do all my lighting in there. I can change color temperatures in that. You can do everything in there and really see what it's going to look like pretty good, down to like what lights I'm going to use, because I only use the lights in the program that I actually had in the package. And I do that with a lot of things. And, you know, that's been key to me, to experiment all that creative stuff before I walk into the door. But with that being said, because now you've saved all that time, so you can still do those creative things, because now you even have more time. I feel like, yeah, my whole battle is time always. And so I think if you wanted to get loose with it, you got to get loose with it before you get there on the day, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. It's tough. It is hard though, isn't it? Because it's never, even when it's in a computer program, it's never the same when you get there. You got the characters moving around. There's so much going on. But yeah, I think the way I'm moving towards that is I'm, like you say, I'm trying to be creative when I do those storyboards, but I'm also trying to give myself a little bit of leeway when I'm shooting stuff and know that I can kind of mess things up a bit on set and give myself more time. But it's difficult to do that. I could talk to you all evening, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to end with a question I ask everyone. I know the answer to this, but I want you to sort of explain it a bit more. So I usually ask everyone what their motto is, and you've said it. What was it? No risk, no reward. So give me a time you've used that yourself and it's kind of paid off.
I mean, no joke. I use it on everything. just everything I do, you know. It's always, I don't know if it pays off. Look, I don't know if it pays off. I can't tell you that it always will pay off. But what I can tell you is that if you live your life like that, you will live your life. You know what I mean? Like you will just always be making yourself available to whatever opportunities are there. Right. So in other words, it's not being like a yes man, right? It's not that Jim Carrey movie, right? Right. But it is just no risk, no reward. So in other words, you might want to try this thing. Well, I don't know, just do it. You know, it'd be just, you know, it is very cliche, right? It almost is cliche. I stole it from a comedy show that I used to watch. I can't remember the name of it now, but it doesn't matter. It's from a comedy show. So that's the context behind it, right? You can get the idea, but it is true. Like I've always loved that. Like as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, I'm stealing that. And this was years ago. And yeah, I think that it just makes for an enjoyable experience. You know, street photography for me is like a passion for me that I started in 2022. I love street photography. It's just a hobby thing for me that I just love to do. But that is a prime example, and that has nothing to do with filmmaking, but it does have to do with like finding personal enjoyment in your life for like a workaholic like me is very hard to do, right? I'm not a good street photographer even now, like, you know, a few years later, but I still have this like obsession to keep doing it, just like keep taking the risk. Or like the YouTube videos, not every YouTube video is going to hit, but I keep risking it. You know, I keep going, I don't care, I'm going to do it. And I think why it's important for us as artists is because I know personally a lot of artists that are so talented, but so afraid to put their work out. They're just, they are in turmoil just to see if they can have an audience. And I think that is crazy to me, right? On so many levels, because first of all, you can't even be an artist if you don't have an audience, right? Quite frankly, you know, so like you got to have that audience, but you that's the biggest risk that any artist has is just doing the art, right? That is the number one risk. Like just do it. And yeah, it's not all going to be rewards. It's not all going to be rainbows and unicorns, you know?
Yeah. It's funny that because it reminds me of coming out of film school. I did a degree in film, and then even having the courage to tell people you're a film director used to make me feel embarrassed, because people are like, what do you mean you're a film director? What? You're doing what? So yeah, then the next sort of level of that is being able to pitch your project without feeling self-conscious and embarrassed about it, and you just keep pushing those walls forward further and further away until you don't care. Talk to anyone about anything. Thanks so much for chatting. I'll put links in the description to your YouTube so people can check your short films out.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome, man. Appreciate it.